From living the most lavish lifestyles and having the most expensive sport car to losing millions of dollars and going into debt, here are the richest NBA players who went broke. Starting with Dennis Rodman, who had up to $27 million initially. This bad boy earned money from different places. Not only did he play in the NBA,
I'm gonna be rich.
Rich and famous. Rich and
I'm
famous.
gonna be rich.
but he was also a WWE wrestler. On top of that, he was pretty popular and got many endorsement deals, and also appeared in several shows. With this much demand, it's no wonder he started earning millions. You'd think expensive cars and mansions would follow, but sadly, that wasn't the case with him. Our star soon went completely broke. He was fined several times by the NBA due to driving violations. But there was more. He also had a court issue with one of his wives. His lavish belongings and lifestyle added to the decline of his bank balance pretty quickly. If the star hadn't been doing other ventures on the side, he might have even been on the streets today. Just like Rodman, our next player also went a little too crazy with his lavish expenses. Darius Miles was known as a very respectable player during his time in the NBA. Drafted by the LA Clippers in the 2000 draft, he had a good career while he played. He was even teammates with LeBron James at one point. But luck doesn't always work out in our favor. A serious knee injury forced him to retire at a young age. Although he was pretty upset about this, he decided to enjoy his retirement. That didn't last long either. I guess his bank account couldn't handle his lavish lifestyle and soon gave up on him. To make matters worse, he also had several investments that went bad. The poor guy didn't stand a chance. With so much financial loss, he had no option but to resort to declaring bankruptcy, hence becoming well known as being one of the richest, yet now broke NBA players. But not all of these players went bankrupt because of their bad spending decisions. Next up, we have somebody who couldn't handle retirement well and soon found himself broke. Glenn Rice was one of the richest players in the NBA. He had a pretty good career with a championship and 3 All-Star appearances in the bag. Sadly, the same can't be said for his retirement. After he retired, his life took a turn for the worse. Instead of spending time at home, relaxing and enjoying, he struggled to pay child support. He also had a series of bad investments that added on to his financial burden.
I mean, you know me, I'm always smiling, and when I go out there and see that once again, it's I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have a little pain in my.
With so many losses, he desperately tried to find a way to stay on his feet. Rice tried to make a little income by spending his time signing autographs and conducting training camps. This got him enough to cover his basic expenses. Thankfully, his life didn't stay like that permanently. After his sons grew up, they both became professional basketball players. Rice also became the Heat's community ambassador and is living under better conditions now. All's well that ends well, I guess. Speaking of players who turned their lives around for the better, we have Derek Coleman. He was yet another talented and successful NBA player who got the short end of the stick in life. While he was partly responsible for his bankruptcy, some of it was also to be blamed on the 2010 economic crisis. The poor guy spent the majority of his wealth partying and wildly spending his wealth. Then, before he even got a chance to undo his mistakes or redeem himself, the economic crisis hit and all his investments went bad. But he didn't lose hope. There's something to learn from those who make the best of their situations, and Coleman is one of them. He completed his education, which was cut short because of his drafting, and got a degree. He then became an active member of the community and even managed to open his own basketball club. True players never stop the grind. Speaking of true players, everyone knows the next one on the list. After all, it's pretty hard to forget him. Having been advertised as the face of Reebok, we have the one and only Shawn Kemp. Would you believe me if I told you that Kemp, whom even non-basketball fans had heard of, has only $5 million to his name? Yes, the former millionaire has barely anything left compared to how loaded he was before. Most of his wealth went into child support.
Can't go around mean mugging everybody at every game.
I like that point.
Did you know that the star had a duty to pay child support to 6 different families? His wealth couldn't handle that hit, but adding on top of that, he also had a lot of fines owing to illegal drug possession and usage. Now, I'm not saying that it's right, but hey, if you gotta support that many people, it does get to you at one point or the other. But Kemp worked smartly. He leveraged his support for marijuana to acquire stock in the dispensary that's named after him. Next up, we have a literal riches to rags player. Losing a couple of million is bad, but losing about 100 million is the worst. Sadly, that was the case for Latrell Sprewell, the former Warriors player. Like many players before him, he also made a few bad decisions that ended up having severe consequences. We've seen deals gone bad, but with Sprewell, it was the amazing deal he turned down that led to his bankruptcy. While he was at the peak of his 13-year-long career, he was in high demand. Teams were willing to pay a lot for him, and one such team was the Timberwolves. They offered him a whopping $21 million contract extension, which he turned down. Who knows what was going on in his brain then? Sprewell soon found himself at the end of his career with no options and huge amounts of taxes that were on his head. But that wasn't all. A series of bad things happened, which ended with him left with nothing. First, he got no other good deal. Then, he had no choice but to sell his fortune. And the final hammer on the nail was his ex-wife, suing him for $200 million. Sprewell soon lost all his wealth and found himself with nothing. That must have been hard, considering he was once a 4-time All-Star. With an empty bank account, the star struggled for a while before finally landing a job as a media personality for Madison Square Garden. Now, the final player unfortunate enough to be on this list had a hard life before coming to the NBA and sadly struggled even after retirement. Coming from a not-so-well-off background, we have Allen Iverson. With 14 successful seasons in the NBA, several endorsements, and being a super talented point guard and shooting guard, Iverson never had it easy in life. The former 76ers player never got a comfortable life for long. After struggling in life and making it to the NBA due to his talent,
all I could do is go out there and compete and use the talent that God gave me night in and night out. And that's what I do. I go out there and I play as hard as I can.
his luck gave up on him. Lavish spending on vehicles, jewelry, and other things caused him to go bankrupt. But he had a safety net in the form of his lifetime deal with Reebok, as well as his pension from the NBA. While it wasn't much, it was better than where he had managed to get himself. The star could always count on his endorsement deal to help him whenever he found himself in a tight spot.
He believed that I could be that guy to carry a franchise on my shoulders. It was hard. I had my ups and downs, but obviously I pulled it off.
He may not be as rich as he once was, but he's doing pretty fine in life compared to others who can't even say that much for themselves. That's it for the richest NBA players who are now broke. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.